Hello and welcome to neo-varsity-live. I'm your host, Scott Patsko, and over the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to get into high school football interviews, predictions, debates, and a lot more. Now, two of the most anticipated high school football playoff games this week are Avon Midview and Hudson St. Ignatius. We'll have players from all four teams on the show a little bit later, and I want to let you know that you can be involved in that. You can leave a comment for us, any of the guests that we have on the show, or any questions you might have in the comment section at the bottom of this post. Or you can tweet at hashtag #NEOVarsity, and we'll be sure to try and get your questions or comments on the show. So now I want to bring in my partners in crime here. As always, I'm joined by Joe Noga, and sitting in with the band this week is Tim Bielik. We're going to start off with a segment we call Opening Kickoff. We're going to run through a bunch of different topics and get your wisdom on each of them. We're going to start off by taking a look back at the first week of the playoffs. What result was the biggest surprise for you? Tim, we'll start with you.
St. A's beating Brunswick the way they did. Brunswick definitely was one of the hotter teams at the end of the season with wins over Strongsville and Solon, then only scoring 3 points against Eds, a team that was just as hot coming out the win over Ignatius. Very surprising and shows how good Eds is.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Joe?
For me, it was Willoughby South defeating Glenville the way that they did. I expected that to be a much tighter game, even Glenville coming out ahead, but Willoughby South really showed something in that win.
A lot of good performances this week. Which player stood out for you from week one?
DJ Green from Willoughby South had another big game, over 200 yards against Glenville. He's been one of the best players down the stretch and a big reason why the Rebels are in the regional semis.
Mm-hmm.
I watched Dustin Crum on Friday night, and he had a heck of a game. 322 passing, 97 with his legs, 6 total touchdowns. I thought it was pretty impressive.
And we had 44 teams start off in the playoffs. We're down to 18. A lot of teams were one and done. Which out of those first-round exits is going to be the most dangerous team next year?
I like Brecksville next year. With Tyler Tupa coming back as a senior, you got Luke Sternad returning as a junior quarterback. That's a combination that was very effective last year. Another full season together, full camp, should be more chemistry, and that group should be even stronger.
Yeah, I'm going to stay in the Southwest Conference. I think Tim's got the right idea. But I'm going to go Berea Mid-Park. I think Nick Assman really clicked at the end of the year. He'll come back even stronger.
What are the matchups we have with two locals? Number 7, Bay. Number 6, Notre Dame Cathedral Latin in Division 4. Which of their first-round games was a bigger upset?
I'd say Bay beating Crestwood. Crestwood was a team that started the season 9-0. Bay was kind of up and down at the end of the season, but to see them really play Crestwood strong and get the win was very impressive.
Come on, Tim. Crestwood started the season 9-0, but I think they beat one team with a winning record in there. Crestwood really didn't play that tough a schedule. I think NDCL's win was over field was a little bit more impressive.
Like I mentioned earlier, we have Avon and Hudson representatives here. They have games where they're rematches this week, and they're teams that lost the previous game. Which of those two teams has the most to prove in this rematch?
I believe Avon has the most to prove this week. Hudson. When they lost to Midview earlier this season, it's the first time in the last couple of years they lost a game in the West Shore Conference. That's a team that's gone deep in the playoffs the last few years. I'm sure they have revenge on their minds, and we'll see if they can pull it out this Friday night.
Yeah, but Avon's, they've been there before. They're kind of experienced, and no, this is the first time Hudson's won a game, that Mentor game, that signature game that put them, up there. Yeah. I think they need to prove that Mentor game wasn't just a fluke. They need to build on that and move the program forward. I think Hudson, has more to prove in this game.
Now, Benedictine had a close game in the first round, but I think a lot of people before the playoffs looked at a possible matchup with Cardinal Mooney as maybe a state championship game. Is that still the case?
I actually spoke to a friend of mine who's an official who actually did that game, and he said that he was surprised it was as close as it was. Woodridge had a chance to win that game against Cardinal Mooney. It made me question whether Mooney was as strong as we all think they are.
What do you think, Tim?
I don't really think it's the state championship game just because, you look down the road, the other side of the state, you got two really good teams in Kettering Alter and the two-time Division 4 state champs, Clinton Massey. Whoever wins this Benny Mooney game certainly has a shot to get all the way down to Columbus for the state championship game. But odds are you're going to have to run into one of those two teams in the final. So no way is Benny Mooney going to decide a state championship by itself.
What's the Week 2 playoff matchup no one's talking about?
Nordonia and Perrysburg's gotten a little quiet as far as talk goes. Those are two teams that are 11-0. Perrysburg beating Massillon the way they did was absolutely impressive. And Nordonia is a team we've talked about all season as being really good. They're going to get a good true test out there.
There you go, stealing my thunder, Tim. I was in the Midview press box against Walsh Jesuit on Friday, and when we read the Massillon Perrysburg score, everybody's eyes rolled. Everybody said, "Oh, watch out for Perrysburg now." So, yeah, I think that's a game that nobody's really talking about.
Division 6, Region 19. The teams in the semis are a combined 44-0. Do Mogador and Kirtland emerge from that group?
Yeah, I think Loudonville, they've got a lot of team speed. They're a good, talented bunch, but Mogador's been there so many times. I think Mogador getting through, I think Kirtland getting through is pretty much a given, but Mogador might be the one that would struggle and maybe come through.
Yeah.
What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Joe. I really agree that we're looking towards a Mogador-Kirtland regional final in Region 19 just because I think both teams have the experience. Mogador definitely knows how to win those big games when they get down there. Kirtland's certainly favoring the regional semifinal game. Loudonville, Mogador is a tougher game to call, but certainly I think when all said and done, those two teams will be in the regional final next week.
All right, this is a subject that comes up every year in the playoffs. People look at where the locations are at the neutral sites when we get to the second round, and there's complaining because one team has to travel further than the other. This year, Aurora plays Hubbard at Niles McKinley High School. 15-minute drive for Hubbard, about 45 minutes for Aurora. Should that be a big deal?
Coming from experience up here in this area where you've had Menor agreeing to play St. Ignatius at Byers Field, which is their home field in the past, in recent history. Really, the home field advantage in a football game goes away once the ball is kicked. I really believe in terms in a playoff game in a neutral site.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think when you look at those two schools in particular, there's not really that many neutral sites that are available. Last year they played at Austintown Fitch. You look at the other potential sites like Ravenna and Warren. It's kind of surprising that it's a little closer to Hubbard, but in that case, I guess sometimes they have leaned towards putting those games a bit closer to the higher-seeded team.
Okay. All right. Well, that'll do it for opening kickoff, guys. I know.
I didn't get to my favorite answer.
We can only ask you so many things.
Come on. At least ask me the question. Ask me question 11, please. Come on.
You really want me to?
I really want to.
What are people talking about after week 2 of the playoffs?
Mitch Guadagni's socks. I think he's going to make a statement, a fashion statement. Big game on TV on Saturday. That's what I'm waiting to see what Mitch busts out.
Okay. What do you think, Tim? Is that a good pick?
That's certainly a good pick. I'm going to go more football related. I'm going to say everybody's going to talk about that Region 4 final no matter who gets there. I've said all season that's probably the best region in the state of Ohio. I'm curious who's going to end up there, but whoever ends up there, we're going to be talking about that as probably the best game of the week.
But who's going to wear the most flashy socks?
That is an important question, no doubt about it.
It is. All right, well, you guys can go off and debate that. We're going to move on with the show. We'll talk to you guys a little bit later. All right, we're going to see how smart you are as far as high school football goes. Each week here on Neo-Varsity Live, we throw out a pop quiz question, and we look for your feedback. And we're asking you to answer it by tweeting at #NeoVarsity, and we'll announce who gets it right later on in the show. This week's question is, which local football team has the most playoff appearances? A, Menor, B, Mogador, C, St. Ignatius, or D, Nordonia? Those are your choices. So again, tweet your answer to #NeoVarsity, and we'll see who got it right later on in the show. So while you're thinking about that, though, we're going to welcome on a couple football players that I think a lot of people are going to be watching this week. 2 quarterbacks from St. Ignatius. We got Dennis Grosel, and from Hudson, we got Mitch Guadagni. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thank you.
Now, I want to ask you a little bit about coming into this season. I know with Hudson, the motto was going from good to great, and beating Menor was a big step forward in that. But I think I get the sense from a lot of fans that winning a game like Saturday's game is really where you make that step. Do you think that that's what gets you to that point?
Yeah, I mean, definitely Menor was a big win for us. But ever since last year, we lost second round to St. Ignatius, same field and everything. We strived kind of to get to that program level that St. Ignatius is, and this is a pretty big statement game for us.
Yeah. Now, St. Ignatius obviously comes in every season with a lot of expectations, but you didn't have a lot of experience this year. A lot of younger players in a lot of key spots. I guess, what were your expectations for this team this season?
I mean, with a young team, our expectations are just to fill the spots and just, see what we have in the beginning of the year and just build from there. But I think with the great talent we had, we started at a high level and just continue to grow from there. So as of right now, we don't know. Still don't know our expectations. So just hoping to keep getting better.
Now, you finished off with the 2-game losing streak, and not like you played cupcakes or anything. You go up against St. Xavier and St. Edward. That first week of practice going into the first playoff game, how was your confidence after that?
Our confidence was good. I don't think we were more down rather than kind of focused on getting better and overcoming those 2 losses. Coach Kyle always says, see, as soon as playoff starts, it's 0-0 is our record, and I think a lot of guys have took that to heart, and we're focused on coming 2-0.
Now, you had kind of a season-defining win against Menor, at least to this point. And when you look back at that game, what kind of impact do you think that had on your team?
Definitely gave us confidence. Being the #1 team in the state's always a great accomplishment. We kind of marked that game on our schedule pretty much all year, ever since the off season. In the weight room, pretty much just beat Menor, and everything was to beat Menor. So, it was a great feeling. Gave us a lot more confidence.
Once you got that, though, you still had a game to play. Was there concern over, a letdown and not keeping focused on that, 10th week game?
Not really. Coach Wright does a great job of keeping us focused on every week's a new game. Never take any team lightly. We still have one more game to play in our regular season. We need to finish off great.
So you guys opened up with Elyria in the playoffs, Dennis, and was it important to, you obviously you want to win that game, but to look good doing it, to get your confidence and make sure you're back on track?
A win's a win, but after the 2 losses, like you said, also a statement game, just coming out, a big confidence boost also. We played well, a lot of room for improvement. It's a big win for us, and just moving on.
How about, I want to ask you about style points in general too, because you're the top seed in the region, and your opening game, a lot of people are paying attention to that. Is it important to come out and play well, or you just don't care about that, you just want to win?
When you're in the playoffs, I think it's just to come out and win. Doesn't matter what fashion it's in. If you're the #1 team and the #16 team, you just come out and try to win every game. I don't really think style points is a big deal after postseason starts.
I want to go back to last year's matchup. It's a subject you probably don't want to talk about a lot, but now, Dennis, you started a little bit during the season, but you're on the sideline for that game. What sticks out when you think back to that game?
The #1 thing that sticks out is, they had the momentum, and it was definite to tell. And I think we scored right before halftime, and I think that was a big turning point. Last year, a group of seniors were a never-say-die group of guys, and they proved it with that win, and to come from behind and made a statement.
Now, of course, you got hurt in that game and ended up on the sideline at the end. The injury, I'm certain is a point for you that you remember, but what sticks out from your performance in that game?
Honestly, our defense. They gave us great field position all night. We had a pick 6 in the beginning of the game that gave us a lot more momentum. As he said, we had some momentum. And then we kind of turned the ball over right before half on the 7-yard line. So pretty much just those. The defense played really well for us.
This is for both of you. What do you think has changed for your teams for this matchup? We'll start with you, and I know you have a lot of new people.
Yeah, probably our attitudes. Last year we were I think we were the higher. I'm not sure. I think we were the higher team, but I think we had a lot more confidence coming in. And this year it's we're more lower seed. Kind of gives us a little more focus, a little more drive to win. Since kind of the underdog team, Hudson being a great team and everything this year. So I think that's probably the main difference.
How about for Hudson? What's changed?
I'd say the main difference this year for us was probably off season. Our coach did a great job almost the whole summer of getting us in the weight room, preparing for those big games like we had, and winning those games hopefully in the off season, in the postseason.
Okay. Now you've both been involved in a lot of touchdowns this year, and I want you to think back to some of those and which one sticks out the most. What was your favorite touchdown to be involved in, and tell us a little bit about the play.
You can start.
Whoever can say it first.
I think my favorite was probably this reverse pass we had against Twinsburg. It was I ran a jet sweep and then pitched it to Colton, and then Colton ran back and pitched it to Kyle Ader, our other quarterback, and he threw it back to me for a touchdown, and it was took forever, but it was pretty cool. Yeah, exactly. It was pretty cool though.
How would you do?
I'd have to say the first game of the year, which is probably the best and the most special to everyone, because we just didn't know how we were going to be this year, and we drove down the first or second drive and just put it in the end zone, a little out route to Jack Cook. But I think that was just probably the best one I've been a part of.
Yeah.
Just probably the best feeling.
Now you guys have been in the locker room with your coaches all season, and you've heard their pep talks. This game on Saturday, what do you expect your coaches to tell you? We'll start with you, Mitch.
I mean, pretty much play how we know to play. Don't really get too nervous about it. I mean, yeah, it's a huge game and everything, but I mean, we're playing with the same guys since 3rd grade, and just have fun out there. It could be our last game together ever, so really enjoy the moment.
What do you think?
I mean, Coach Kyle has his 48 minutes, and he says it every game, and really digs us into our head that 48 minutes could be your last 48 minutes, could be your last minute of playing. You never know. And if you play the full 48 minutes, you will have results that you will be pleased with. I think that's one of the main things he focuses on.
All right. Well, we're going to bring you guys back on the show a little bit later, but for now, we're going to move on. We're going to show you a video here. Maybe you've seen during the season, we have a semi-regular segment here on cleveland.com called Riding in Cars with Coaches. Pretty much the premise is as simple as it sounds. Joe Noga gets some coaches to sit in his car with him. They drive around and talk about football and music and television, just about anything. And Joe put together a snippet of one of those videos, and we're going to have a look at it now.
What kind of pregame speeches do you give?
I try to give a mixture. A lot of times, yeah, my intensity comes out to make sure you're ready to play. There's nothing better than a Friday night to truly let your emotions go. That's why I talked about when I was younger, basketball was my sport, but football I truly fell in love with because of the emotion you get to play with, and there's nothing like a Friday night to play with the guys next to you and play for them. And yeah, speeches are a time for me to kind of let it all out.
Yeah. You don't give any speeches in the math classroom, right? Not the same?
Sometimes I do. Those guys need redirecting sometime. We got to get the job done. So sometimes you have to give them a little motivating in the math classroom so they understand that it takes some hard work to learn the fundamentals of math the same way. So they laugh at me. They're making fun of me the one day. I heard a story of a kid telling Coach Barwitty, man, I just came from math class. I love Coach Fox's math classes on Friday compared to the rest of the week because you can tell he's just on edge. But he's yelling and breaking chalk as he gives the classes. So, yeah, I think some of the intensity carries over almost too much sometimes.
All right, we're back, and now we're going to take a look at our roundtable discussion this week. Earlier today, we posted a question and asked our readers which number 1 seed they thought was in not necessarily the most danger, but had the biggest chance of losing this week. Tim, we all took turns answering the question. By a vote of about 415 users voted. Right now, Hudson is the answer that the readers have chosen as being the team that's in the number 1 seed that's at the greatest risk of not coming through this weekend. Followed closely by Midview. I think a lot of the discussion was about Midview and that Midview-Avon game being a much closer game during the regular season. They have a little bit more to go on because they played that already once this year. Tim, what were your thoughts on a game that's for a number 1 seed that could really, fall short this week?
Well, when I look at the poll, I'm actually kind of different from most of the people who voted this week. I'm going to say Benedictine might be in some of the most trouble just because you're going against a program like Youngstown, Cardinal Mooney, who pretty much every time they get in, they have a shot to be a champion, and that's going to be a tough matchup. They lost to them last year. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in a rematch this Friday night. We
did have a few users chime in on this. Football Junkie, 44012 guy, Michael Murphy, they were all in there answering. You can go online, find the link, and put your comments in as well on highschoolsports.cleveland.com. And now we also want to make sure that you realize you can interact with us here on NEO-Varsity Live. Tweet at us at NEO-Varsity, hashtag NEO-Varsity. We'll read your comments on the air and respond to any questions. And we get a pretty good debate going here in studio. That's, Tim. We have a lot of fun talking back and forth with some of these users, and really, guys like Football Junkie, we really value your interaction with us as well. Okay. So next up is our game show segment. We're going to welcome in our in-studio guests again and have a little fun here. Each week on neo-varsity-live, we like to play a little game show, test their trivia knowledge, and fellas, why don't you slide on down here. All right, joined once again by the quarterbacks from Hudson and St. Ignatius, Mitch Guadagni and Dennis Grosel, and also Jake Sopko from Avon. Jake, good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Guys, you ready to, we've got a couple of some really great high school quarterbacks here. The Browns also have a few pretty decent quarterbacks on their roster right now. We're going to play a little game that takes us back to when Brian Hoyer and Johnny Manziel were in high school. Brian Hoyer, of course, went to St. Ignatius here in Cleveland. Johnny Manziel, much heralded out of Kerrville, Texas, I believe was the place where he prepped before A&M. The name of the game is Money Manziel or Brian Be Good. So here's the deal. I'm going to give you guys a stat, and you tell me if it was from Brian Hoyer or Johnny Manziel's high school career. All right? So we'll go down the line, and if you get, we'll do 5 questions, and we'll see who gets the most right. All right?
Let's do it.
Not totally slanted towards the Ignatius
That's
quarterback.
what I'm saying.
All right, you know, I'm trying to come up with something good here. Everybody knows Johnny Manziel, so it shouldn't be too hard. Let's go with the first one. Passed for 2,130 yards and 18 touchdowns as a junior. Who was it? Start with Jake.
Probably gonna say Hoyer. I assume Johnny's probably more of a runner in high school, so.
Okay. Dennis?
Brian Hoyer.
Brian Hoyer. Mitch?
Brian Hoyer.
Brian Hoyer. You guys are, okay, you're 3 for 3. Everybody got that one right. Can I make these questions too easy? All right, we'll see. Threw a total of 11 interceptions in his varsity career. Brian Hoyer or Johnny Manziel?
It's got to be Brian Hoyer.
Brian Hoyer.
Hoyer.
And all 3 of you are wrong. Brian Hoyer had 25 interceptions in his varsity career. Johnny Manziel only 11.
Wow.
I mean, wow. Well, Mitch, you almost had that against Menor, so we're not going to. I mean, come on. 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Let's. Geez, don't look at.
I wasn't.
Yeah, you totally looked. All right. Next question. Had a QB rating of 133.5 in his high school career.
Manziel.
Hoyer.
Gotta go Manziel.
Now, Hoyer predates any sort of QB rating. Come on, that was ancient.
Got to stay with the boy.
Max Preps, according to Max Preps, Johnny Manziel 133.5 on his QB rating. 4th question. Passed for 272 yards and 4 touchdowns in his first varsity start.
Money Manziel.
Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, I like Manziel.
Brian Hoyer.
Wow.
Brian Hoyer, the first varsity start was against Westerville South, I believe. Final question, is the all-time leading passer in his high school's history with better than 4,700 yards. Start with, why are you guys all looking at
Because you probably know You got it?
Hoyer.
You got it?
Johnny Manziel.
Johnny Manziel.
There you go. It was Brian Hoyer is the all-time leading quarterback in St. Ignatius history in terms of yardage. Fellas, it's a lot of fun. Now, stay tuned because we're all going to play the can game later, and we will be posting the video of the can game. We've got 3 quarterbacks here. The quarterbacks tend to be the more competitive of the participants in the can game. So, fellas, thank you for again playing our little game show here. Good showing, even though the deck was a little bit stacked. You can't complain. Come on, Mitch. You guys are number 1 in the state. Come on. Come on. All right. So let's move on here. Our next, we wanted to take a look at the number of teams in the area that are participating in rematches this week. It's a rematch weekend. We've already talked about Hudson and St. Ignatius as a rematch. We've also got rematches in the playoffs between Aurora and Hubbard, Poland Seminary, St. Vincent St. Mary, Benedictine, and Cardinal Mooney. So these are games that we'll be watching this week. And make sure that you stay tuned for a post from Scott Patsko online that breaks down all the rematches and what goes on this week in round 2 of the playoffs.
All right, well, Hudson St. Ignatius isn't the only marquee event we're talking about tonight. Avon and Midview, 2 West Shore Conference teams, are going at it again for the second time this season on Friday in a Division II regional semifinal. And to talk about that and more, we have in studio here Avon's Jake Sopko, who you met a little earlier during the video or the game show portion. And on the phone, we have Midview's Logan Boland. Logan, can you hear us all right?
Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, first, I want to go back and revisit that Week 5 game, because I think it was a big moment for both teams. Mm-hmm. Logan, obviously for Midview, beating Avon and kind of ending that long streak they had was a big deal. When you look back at that game, how do you think it impacted Midview?
I think it got us over the hump because we knew we were good, but to beat a team of Avon's caliber, we knew we were at a good level, and we're just happy to be where we're at right now.
All right. That obviously didn't end the success for Avon. You guys ran the table the rest of the way. You're in the playoffs. You're in the second round. But I have to imagine that maybe you learned a little bit about your team in that game. What did you take away from that loss?
Yeah, I think that was really the first time we faced adversity all year, because I think prior to that game, I don't know if we were behind at all. I think we kind of had the lead every game we played so far. So that was the first time we kind of fell behind. And it was, we needed to see how our team would respond and stuff. So, we didn't get the win, but I think we've grown a lot since that game.
Okay. Now, Logan, Midview in the playoffs for the first time since 2012, I'm sorry. So the seniors were sophomores the last time, so you're not going to have a lot of guys who played key roles in that first matchup. Going into this year's game, what was the experience like, just being a main part of this team in the playoffs?
It was great. Hopefully it keeps on going, but it was a great atmosphere, and it was exciting the whole way, and we loved every second of it.
Now, you've already had a revenge game in a way, because you play Highland in the first round. Was that a big deal to you guys to open up with them and have it be Highland, knowing how last year's season ended?
Yeah, it was a lot of exciting. We had all off season. We had to think about that loss and stuff, and wow, what could we have done to win that game? So it was really awesome to be able to play them again and kind of get another shot at them. So that was a lot of fun.
Just kind of worked out.
Yeah.
Now, Logan, you came into this season with a lot of really good players coming back, but quarterback was kind of a question mark. I know a lot of people in Grafton probably knew about Dustin Crum, but people throughout Northeast Ohio didn't know as much about him. What did you expect out of the sophomore quarterback coming into this year? All right, Jake, you had some injuries at running back this season. You have Gary Choate there. He goes out. You bring in Sonny Cooper. I know he got banged up a little bit this past week. But despite whoever was in there, the running game seemed to work. So what has been the key to making sure that happened?
I think it probably goes to our offensive line. I mean, they're both great running backs and stuff, but without your offensive line, you really can't do much. So no matter who's back there, they're the guys in the trenches that are making holes for Sonny and Jarrett, and they're both very talented, so it works out.
Now, earlier in the show, I asked your counterparts from Hudson and St. Ignatius about the touchdowns they've been involved in. You've obviously been involved in a lot yourself. When you think back this season, though, which play sticks out for you?
Probably just the first play of the year, the first touchdown of the year was to versus Avon Lake to Zach Torber. It was kind of like a corner around the back of the end zone. And it was just great, to start the game off 7-0, and for the first touchdown of the year, it was a great feeling.
Yeah. Now, as also about being in the locker room, I'm curious, knowing Coach Elder can be a little fiery sometimes. Mm-hmm. What do you expect him to say to you guys before Friday's game?
He'll probably give us, a long motivational speech, but, the main thing of it will be, have fun and, just be happy that we get another shot at, Midview, who beat us early in the year. So, be very excited and, go out there and have fun.
All right, well, I want to thank you for being on here, and I'm sorry we seem to have lost Logan for a few minutes, but we're gonna move on now. We're gonna talk about our pop quiz answer. And earlier in the show, we gave you our question: which local football team has the most playoff appearances? And your choices were A, Mentor, B, Mogador, C, St. Ignatius, or D, Nordonia. And the answer is B, Mogador. They have 28 appearances, which is 4th all time. I see Mitch Guadagni pumping his fist. He apparently had the answer. All right, I want to remind everyone that each week we also try to get videos posted on the show, and we didn't have any this week, but you can get videos to us very easily. You could take them during a game on your phone or your camera and tweet them at #neo-varsity, and then we'll go ahead and post them on the show and let everybody see what you captured. And also, again, we want to remind you that you can go ahead and comment on anything about the show here in the comment section in this post. If you have suggestions for segments, guests in the future, we'd sure love to hear about it. So for now, though, we're going to bring back Tim and Joe, and we're going to run through our predictions. Now, neither one of you two